All right, what we're going to talk about now is the importance of getting a client to go get their current policy. Not only the importance of it, but also how you go about doing it. What we're finding right now with our programs, we are very hands-on. We help a lot of agents through the process of getting going to find success in the industry. And we're finding that one of the number one struggles of newer agents without a lot of experience, and even agents that come to us with experience, we're finding a lot of times they're having trouble getting the policy. We talk to an agent and they say, hey Ben, first day out in the field, I know I had 7 appointments. I got in 5 of the houses. One of them couldn't afford it, whatever the case may be. But these 3 or 4 clients had a current policy. I wasn't really able to beat it from what they told me, but I wanted to look at it and see if there was something else I could do, but I could not get them to get the policy. We're running into that a lot, and as a new agent or an experienced agent, that is going to cause you to struggle in this industry. So this training right here is extremely important. It's something you should take notes. This is something you're going to practice. Treat this as a presentation or a door approach. Is something that you have to know how to do when it presents itself. So make sure you don't take this lightly. You don't just kind of watch this video and say, oh, that sounded good. You move forward in the training. This section right here is something you're going to find yourself in probably your first day in the field. You're going to be sitting there thinking, oh, I remember a video that told me something to do here, but I'm not real sure what to say. So make sure you practice it, you get good at it. Again, what we're talking about on getting them to get their other policy, it should only matter if the other policy becomes a roadblock. So early in the presentation, as you already should have learned, you're going to find out their reason for sending the card in. If they tell you the reason for sending the card in is they bought a policy a long time ago and it's only $5,000, they know that's not enough to take care of their burial, so they need additional insurance. Well, in that scenario, especially if you're a newer, less experienced agent, you just need to move forward with writing an add-on policy. Don't bring up their other policy too much. Don't talk about it too much. They told you they have a car at home, but they're on your car lot because they need a second car. Just focus on selling the car. Now you will find as you're going through the process from time to time, that other policy is going to start coming up as a roadblock. My other policy is $5,000 for $30. Yours is $5,000 for $45. I think I'm just going to stick with that one. Well, you still don't immediately go to attacking it. You go back to their reason. Well, I understand that, Mr. Johnny, but you had said you sent the card in because you know the $5,000 you have isn't enough, right? Well, obviously when you bought it, you was younger than you are today. Your health might have been a little different, and the prices are different today as they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. So again, you try to move forward past that policy, but if it just becomes a roadblock to where it is in the way, and it's time to attack that policy, see if you can better their situation, you have to go about it the correct way. If you look at my career in this industry, if you could go back, I wish you could, right? It would be a very good case study, something good to look at. But if you could go back and look at my production every single week of my career and have it written down and do the total, and then you had a way to go back and remove out every replacement I ever made. Every time I upgraded a policy, I replaced a policy, I saved them money, I got them reduced paid up, I got them cash value, whatever the case may be. If you could take that, you would probably find that my production would drop, that total number of production would probably drop by 60 or 65%. I know for a fact that over half the time out in the field, I was doing replacements. And so what you would actually find is I probably wouldn't be here today doing this video. I would have failed in the industry because that would not have been enough money to sustain my business. So replacements are an extremely important part of it. I can't think back to a week, in my career that replacements did not save me that week. You look at it and you wrote a few new policies, you're at 1,700 in production, but then I go into a house, replace a policy, then the next day I run into a husband and wife, upgrade both of their policies, and now I end the week at 4,900 as opposed to 1,700. And that's where most agents find themselves. So if you're an agent that's sitting here thinking, look, I'm signing up with this company, I'm going out, I'm seeing people, and I'm just adding insurance to everybody I can, you're not really going to make the sales you need to make in this industry. LIMRA says that the average client buys life insurance 7 times in their life. So you just have to get used to the fact that you're out there seeing people that are already going to have some type of coverage, but they sent that card in and they already have that coverage in place. So if something crossed their mind, it's your job to pull that need out by doing the 3 reasons people send cards in. But if you find that somehow that policy becomes a roadblock, it's extremely important to make sure you can't upgrade it in some way. Don't look at them having a policy as a negative. All top producers will tell you that is what they want to see. If they can have 8 appointments, they want 8 appointments with people that already have a policy, because they're already buyers, they already have checking account, they're already used to doing drafting. So your job is just to upgrade it if possible. The thing to think about with getting the client to get their policy is this is a sale in itself, right? In this business, one of the main things you can do is actually break this business down into bite-sized chunks and understand that when you're standing at the door and they answer the door, that is a sale, okay? When you're inside, you're building rapport, that is a sale. When you're doing the presentation, that's a sale. When you're doing underwriting, that's a sale. There's things you say during underwriting. You don't say things like, oh, wow, you only take a baby aspirin. You could have any carrier out there would approve you. You just gave them the ammunition of, well, I'm going to kind of shop around. You just told me I could get any company. Why would I go with my first choice of you? Why don't I look around? So learning that this business is a lot of micro sales that equal the goal at the end, which is you getting a insurance application written. So this is a sale, and you have to sell it that way. So to give you an example of that, would you go out, you're going through this training, has anything you heard make you believe that, hey, my goal is going to be to go out in the field and see people, and I'm going to walk in, say, hey, talk about some pictures on the wall. When it's time to get down to it, I'm going to look at them and say, now look, do you want to buy life insurance today? Is that going to be your presentation? Well, obviously not. You went through this training. There's a sales process to get them to buy a policy. Well, if you think about it, it's the same thing here, but agents are messing this part up. When it comes time to, the other policy becomes a roadblock and you need to address it, you know what agents say the majority of the time? All right, well, do you mind going to grab that policy for me? You are at a point in the presentation that you cannot move forward without that other policy. That other policy is stopping you from making money today. You're wasting your time unless you can get that policy and upgrade it in some type of way. So you mean to tell me that policy that is in your way, your solution is to say, hey, do you mind going to get that policy? If that worked enough for you to be successful, then your presentation would be, hey, do you want to buy insurance today? If it was just as simple as asking, and you would get the answer you needed enough times, that's what our presentation would be. This training would be super simple. I'd be able to recruit a lot of agents and say, hey, just go in the field and ask them, do they want to buy insurance? So we all can agree, some of you might even be laughing right now, that, hey, you can't sell insurance by just going in someone's house and saying, hey, do you want to buy insurance? Or go stand outside of Dollar General and everybody that walks in say, hey, do you want to buy a life insurance policy today? We know that life insurance isn't bought, it's mostly sold. Same thing when it comes to getting the policy. You can't just ask them to go get it. You have to intrigue them to go get it. So there's 3 things I want to talk about. One is the good, like, compliment. So if you have any experience or knowledge of the carrier they have, you want to compliment that carrier. Second thing you want to do is confuse them, which I'm going to cover. Third thing you want to do is offer your service. Okay, so there's 3 things you want to cover. So in this example, we're going to pretend like Mr. Johnny has AARP, and he's 61, and he's had the policy since he said he got it 3 years ago, right? So one of the first things I want to do is say, oh yes, Mr. Johnny, I'm very familiar with AARP. I run into people just about every day, it seems, that has an AARP policy. They're very good at marketing. They run a lot of TV ads. They send you a bunch of stuff in the mail. You already have AARP and you probably get a ton of stuff from them, right? What I'm doing is I'm nodding, he's nodding. I'm not saying bad things, and I'm getting him to agree. Now, I know AARP is usually a 5-year increasing term, renewable term. The premiums go up. I know it cancels at 80. Yeah, some of you might say, oh, you can convert it, but if you've ever tried to convert one at 80 and see what the price is, you'll realize that most people can't convert it. So I understand that policy, And I know that it's probably not the best thing for Mr. Johnny, okay? But I can't tell him that. You can't come to my house and look at something I just bought and I'm bragging on it and I'm showing it to you, and then you tell me, look man, you got ripped off, you got a horrible deal, you could have got a better deal over here. You know, that's not how you go about this. You compliment it, man, how did you pick this color? The color of it's great, man, I love that, I love this, right? So you compliment it by showing your knowledge of it. You know, I'm familiar with them. Now, this is where you want to get them to kind of tell you that it's a bad policy. So you want to find something about the policy if you have the experience. If you don't have the experience, it is perfectly fine to say, well, you know, Colonial Penn, I mean, I've heard that name. I'm not really familiar with how their policies work, right? So it's okay to say if you don't know. But just so you know, on the back page of the Lifeline, which I have it right over here, on the back page of it, there's common carriers you're going to run into. Colonial Penn, number one, AARP, Globe Life, Senior Life, there's a whole bunch. So make sure you're familiar with that because you'll run into those policies and you can use the knowledge from that sheet to overcome this. So if you don't know, it's okay, but if you do know, use that knowledge. So in this made up scenario, I know that AARP, and if you read your Lifeline, you'll know it as well, it increases on the 5s and 0s. So it increases at 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, cancels at age 80. Globe Life is opposite a little bit, right? So Globe Life's the same type of policy, but it increases on 5-year bands from the issue date. So in this scenario, Mr. Johnny got AARP at 58. If that would have been a Globe Life, it would increase 5 years from 58 to 63. So just those little things help you understand it. So I know his policy increases at 50, 55, 60, okay? He got it at 58, he's now 61. I have the knowledge and the ammunition to make him answer a question I want him to answer. So I'm gonna simply ask, now Mr. Johnny, with this AARP policy, have you seen your rates go up at all? Right? Just had this exact scenario happen when an agent called me from inside the house. I think the guy's name was Larry, not Johnny, but same scenario. And he agreed. Yeah, my premium went up a little bit, you know, a couple years back. So what I just did there is set him up to tell me his premiums are going up instead of me telling him. Okay, I'm not telling him that. I'm letting him tell me. But your reaction's important. So as soon as I ask him, now have your premiums went up? And he's like, yeah, you know, they went up a couple years ago. Okay, gotcha, right? I'm kind of giving that reaction. It's no different if you're sitting in a hospital room and the doctor puts your x-rays up on a little glass light thing, right? And he puts it up there and he's looking at it and he's staring at it and he's like, Instantly you're interested, right? What do you see, doc? What is wrong with me, doc? Am I dying, doc? Right? You all of a sudden have an interest in what he's doing. Kind of same thing here. You know, just that little, okay. Well, I mean, is that a bad thing? Or, you know, a lot of times they'll start asking questions now because of your reaction. And I have them where I want them. But to make this easier for you to use in multiple houses, just pretend like I made the reaction. He didn't say anything about it. And so, you know, what I will do from that point, I'll say, well, Mr. Johnny, the reason I asked that question about it going up in price on you is because, like I said, I run into these policies a lot. They definitely have their purpose, but so many times I run into people that got an AARP policy because they need something in place when they pass away so their family isn't left with a burden, right? And I have him agreeing because I'm agreeing. Then I'll say, is that why you got it? There's me setting him up, okay? Because now he's gonna say, yeah, you know, I got it. I don't want my wife to have to worry about it when I'm gone, or whoever the beneficiary may be. There's your in, right? Because you get to say, well, look, it's a good thing I come out because this policy, it went up on you at 60. It's gonna go up a little bit more at 65. It's gonna go up more at 70. A whole lot more at 75, and then it's going to cancel at 80. Now, has anybody in your family ever lived past the age of 80? Right? And a lot of times the answer is yes. Well, in this scenario, if you do live past 80, I mean, this policy is no use to you. Okay? So again, I'm not telling him bad news. He told me That's what the policy does. And then I'm using that to explain to him why that might not be the best deal. Now, at this point, a lot of you would say, you're in good enough shape, you've done a good enough sales process to ask him to go get the policy. And sometimes you'd be correct. But what I like to do is stack the deck in my favor of him going to get the policy. So now we're at the second section of this, which is confusing him. Okay? So we've already agreed that it goes up in price. I've already got him a little intrigued that maybe this ain't what he thought it was. He bought something he shouldn't have bought without me having to tell him that. And so at this point, I'll say, now, it went up when you were 60. It's going to go up again at 65, right? It's 100% given. I know that. Do you know how much it's going to go up by? And we could all pretty much agree what's the chances he's memorized his policy and to see when it goes up how much. And he's going to go, well, I'm not real sure. Okay, so you wouldn't know how much it's going to go up at 70 as well, right? Okay. Well, the only reason I ask is I've seen several scenarios to where by the time you get to like 75, it's $600-800 a month. And I have literally seen that twice in my career. So I say that because you know what they usually say? Oh, I'm not paying $600-800 a month. I've got him telling me he don't want the policy anymore, right? So I ask him a question of does he know what the premiums go up to? Then I'm gonna start asking other things, right? Now also, do you know if there's any additional riders inside of your policy, like accidental death rider, nursing home waiver of premium, anything like that? You don't? Okay, good deal. Now, do you know if it's convertible at a certain age? You're not sure? Okay. And is there any type waiting period on it? Got you. You don't know? Okay. So see what I'm doing? I'm asking him questions. I'm asking him stuff that I know is not in the policy or stuff I do know is in the policy, but it doesn't matter. I'm asking him things about this policy he doesn't know, right? And then you want to use some type of transition statement, and it's extremely important. So a lot of times I'll say, well, look, I think we both can agree, Mr. Johnny, you did the right thing by getting this policy because when you pass away, you don't want your daughter responsible with that burden, right? Got you. Okay, so that's pretty important to you. What you say on a scale of 1 to 10, that's probably a 10? Got you. Okay, so we have to make sure. This is so important. It's a 10 out of 10, right? We have to make sure when you pass away, it does exactly what you're thinking it's going to do. And that's actually the second part of my job, Mr. Johnny. The first part is I come out and see people. They don't have any insurance in place. I help them find the best policy. I'm an advocate for them, being a broker. I find them the best company with the best rate that they could medically qualify for. Okay? That's the first part of my job. The second part of my job is I go out and help people that already have a policy in place. Now, this part of my job is actually the easiest because it's not my job to come out here and now I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to change anything. My goal is to help you understand what you have. And since I'm already out here because you had sent in this little postcard right here and I've already came out here, it's at no cost to you. Now, again, it's only 2 to 3 minutes so that I'll be out of your hair. What we're going to do is just look in your policy and answer those questions I was asking you. That way you know in writing per your policy contract exactly what your policy does, right? And again, 2 to 3 minutes, I'll be out of your hair, go help the next person. So if you will, while I grab the stuff I need out of my bag, I need to get a highlighter and a couple things so we can understand it. Run, grab that policy for me. We'll get these questions answered and I'll be out of your hair. And I turn, start getting something, I go right to where I'm doing. I tell him something to go do. Now, if you find yourself in a position where Johnny's still sitting there and you're here, hey, you have the policy in here or something, right? You start trying to probe, like, why are you not going to get the policy yet? And sometimes, right now, I don't even know where it is. That's perfectly fine. You can't think of anywhere it might be, in the freezer, under your mattress, in the closet. It's extremely important, Mr. Johnny, now that I'm out here. You're never going to get a policy review. You're never going to be in a better position to get a policy review, and it's at no cost to you, and I can't change anything in it. I don't work for AARP. It's just going to give you the information. You really need to do this, Johnny, right? So run, grab it. Is it in the back, in your bedroom? Now, I've tried to do that to entice him even more to go get it, and he still won't. Well, look, that's no problem. I can ask these questions to AARP. I'm going to just call them. We'll ask the questions because we also need to get them to mail you a replacement policy since you lost yours because your daughter is going to need that policy to do the claim. Now, see what I'm doing? I'm not asking permission. Do you mind if I call? Do you have a few minutes where we can call AARP? I'm not doing those things. I'm taking the initiative. I'm getting it done. I'm already dialing it. I'm making it harder for him to tell me no. But now you only want to call the carrier if you really feel like the policy isn't in the house. And then you want to call the carrier, ask certain questions. So ring, ring. This is AARP. Hey, AARP, this is Ben. I'm sitting here with Mr. Johnny. He's a mutual client of ours, and he actually has a policy through y'all that he cannot find. And so I wanted to help him do a couple things. One, see what the process would be to get a replacement policy sent out here, but also get some questions answered for him since he don't have his policy, so he can understand the type coverages he has and make sure he don't have any additional needs. So I have you on speaker right here with Mr. Johnny. Johnny says, hey, all right, Johnny, what's your policy number? We don't know his policy number. We don't have his policy. All right, Johnny, what's your date of birth? Boom, boom, boom. What's your address? Boom, boom, boom. They do all that. Now, do you give me permission to speak to Mr. Ben on your behalf about your policy? Yes, I do. All right, thank you, Mary, or AARP. So, first and foremost, he said he has a policy. He said he's paying $10,000 a month for like $50-something. Does that sound right? I let her look. I let her answer. All right, and I'm writing all this down. Okay. Now, is this a term life insurance or a whole life insurance? Term life. Okay. All right. So since it's term life, is his premiums going to go up anymore? They are. When's that going to happen? 65, 70, 75. Okay. Now here's the secret. If it's AARP, I always ask. All right, just for reference points, so he'll just make sure it's something he can afford in the future. Let's just say it's 75. What would his premiums be? I'm asking the most expensive, right? $394. His eyes get big, and I look big. It's like I'm in agreement with him, and putting on a little acting show. I write that price down. Now I'll ask some questions, and I know the answer is no, right? Now, does this policy build any type of like cash value and things if he needs to borrow from it? Oh, it don't? Okay. Right? So what I'm doing is I'm setting them up to lose by asking the questions the right way, right? All right, look, Mary, you have been just such a great help. I appreciate it. I'm gonna talk to Mr. Johnny and go over this information with him, and we'll reach back out. If we need something, I get off the phone. Now at that point, I'm gonna use that information to go into replacing a policy, which is covered in the training. There's a whole video on cash value, reduced paid up, things like that. But I highly encourage you to watch this video a few different times and practice it. So many agents struggle with this for a reason. They know they have to practice the door approach. If you're an agent that's going to set your own appointments, you got to practice the appointment setting script because you're going to need to say that to clients. The presentation, agents practice it. You're going to record it at the end of the sales process. You have to record your presentation and send it in to us. So agents do that. When they get to this section of the training, they was not practicing it. Okay, this is something you will find yourself in front of a client needing to do, and it's going to make you a ton of money. So make sure you practice this, you get good at this. This will make you more money than just about anything else in this training. So continue on to the next section.